Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another installment of MediaPost webinar series. I'm Mike Winkleman, Content Director for Bespoke by MediaPost, and we have a great presentation for you all today put together by our friends at Reveal Mobile. MediaPost webinars bring together the media, marketing, and advertising community to learn more about the methodologies and technologies that make effective business possible across a variety of categories, brought to you by our industry's top solutions providers, marketers, and practitioners. Leading today's webinar will be Dan Dillon, Reveal Mobile's CMO and a frequent presenter at MediaPost webinars. Today, Dan is going to look at how to use influencer marketing and social media campaigns to drive store foot traffic. Influencer marketing, of course, has clearly hit its stride, but its impact is not just online. As Dan will demonstrate, the most sophisticated marketers are now using influencers to drive their in-store sales and to tie their top-line results back to influencer campaigns. As you explore with Dan, the influencer virtuous cycle, from discovering to recommending to shopping, you'll learn how you can run influencer marketing campaigns on Instagram and TikTok that will generate sales and connect your paid media investments to actual in-store foot traffic. But before we get started, just a reminder, after the presentation, we'll have some time for a Q&A session. You can submit your questions at any time during the presentation in the question box that you'll find on the GoToWebinar interface on your screen. With that, let's bring in Dan to get things going. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the kind intro. It's always good to speak to everybody in the MediaPost ecosystem. Welcome all. Thank you for making the time to join us here at Reveal Mobile and MediaPost to talk and to learn all about influencer marketing and how to use that channel to drive in-store traffic and in-store sales. First order of business is an apology, actually. This webinar was marketed for having two presenters, and my coworker, Laura Conway, was pulled away at the last moment. So all you get today is Dan Dillon, and I apologize. If you were really showing up for Laura and all of her wisdom, my apologies to all of you folks who are now stuck with me. That to say, though, let me go ahead and jump in, Joe, and just talk through a couple of agenda items and cover everything we're going to talk about today. I'm going to start with the consumer journey and how it has changed over time, just to level set everybody on how consumers are operating and behaving today. And then we're going to talk about the advent of influencer marketing and its growth. It's actually rocket ship speed growth and why that is. And then I'm going to unpack something that I call the virtuous cycle, which Mike alluded to in his intro, but is really this new way of thinking about consumerism as a category, which is pretty revealing. And then I want to make sure I get across the notion of how to find, engage, and optimize your influencers, because clearly we're all working on different campaigns. We all have different needs and goals. And frankly, there's an influencer for everybody, right? There's even an influencer for candy corn if you're into Halloween candy. So that we'll talk about that methodology. And then, of course, we want to wrap up today's webinar with real world campaign examples brought to bear through our favorite platforms, Instagram and TikTok. We're going to feature those two today. There are many others, of course, but we have time for two. So we'll talk through two campaigns. And then, of course, as Mike mentioned, anytime you have questions, pop them into the questions box and we'll get to those in due course. So with all that, let me start with the consumer journey and just unpack for you what it used to be and what it now is. So you can see here a very tidy, very clean funnel that is a bit of a fiction, right? It's a bit of a myth, this funnel. It never happens this way. The consumer doesn't become aware of a product, think about buying it, and then walk into the store the next day and buy your product. Maybe that happens 1 out of 10 times, but by and large, it is not a linear process where the consumer is going from point A to point C with point B in between, right? That just is made up, or seems to be made up, right? So the real consumer journey is actually a circle, or really a cycle, better put, and it begins with that same level of awareness or consideration, right? Your consumer has to become aware of what you're selling, and then they have to really think about whether they need it or not. That's the evaluation, and that's compressed. That's sometimes happens in seconds, especially when we're dealing with social media and e-commerce. So that's a very compressed process, and then they'll make the purchase. And sometimes that also happens in a matter of seconds, depending on the merchant, depending on the vendor and the product. But then that's where it gets interesting. After the consumer buys the product, they're of course going to have an experience with it. And then they're going to decide if they like it. And if they do, they're probably going to advocate for it. And then they're going to create a bond with that brand. Whether it's a pair of shoes, whether it's a new sweater, whether it was a pair of airline tickets, they're going to have some sort of affinity, some sort of emotional response to the product and to the brand itself. And this is really the new consumer cycle, where it's really now in constant repetition over and over again, where we're thinking about the last experience we had and either moving off of that vendor because we didn't like it, or going back and buying something again. So hold this cycle in your mind as you think about your own consumer behavior. And I'll add on to this in a few slides when it comes to influencers. But this is really the reality we're dealing with in terms of how consumers become aware, shop, and then respond after that shopping experience. So you think about us buying products, and we do it online all the time, right? We use Google, we use social, we use you name it, OpenTable, right? Whatever the app is, we're using it, or whatever the site is, we're using it. And you think Google is probably the default for most purchases. And in fact, it is in certain instances. So this slide is talking about how people find what they need versus discovering what they think they want or think they need. So Google is great for finding what you need. So what you've got here is somebody searching Google for coffee near me, pizza near me, tacos near me, car repair near me, right? This is a need I have in the moment. I have to put my day on hold until I can get a cup of coffee, or until I can get my flat tire fixed, or whatever I'm looking to solve for. Google is that platform, right? So we already know our problem. We already know what we need to solve for. But social is really where we discover things we might not know we needed or wanted, like a new grill, in this case from Ace Hardware, right? This is actually a Facebook post from the Ace Hardware franchise, and they're clearly promoting grilling throughout the year. Why not grill in the snow? I'm from Chicago, I can do it. Certainly you can do it. So I didn't know I needed this grill until I came across it in my Facebook feed. And this is now, in fact, how consumers are discovering new products. In fact, to the tune of 75% of consumers now are discovering products on social, when it used to be we would, do that from talking to friends, or we would do it from talking to people who've been there before. We're now doing it as a solitary, independent activity, right? We're on our phones, we're browsing Instagram, we come across this great pair of shoes, or this great cocktail, or this great grill in this case. And there's really no one around to tell us if the product's any good, right? It's sort of a thing we discover. It looks cool, but does it work well? Is it high quality? Who else has used it? So the trust factor is sort of taking a hit, right? Because we don't know who to ask if they've used this thing before. The rise of the influencer. So this is the whole purpose for influencer marketing. Influencers have become the proxy whereby we build trust and build confidence in a product or a service or an experience, right? So this is no mistake that influencers are filling this gap, because we're online, we're doing this by ourselves. We need someone to tell us and reassure us, hey, you know what? This is a great sweater, or this is a great electronic product, or this is a great experience. So you can see here on this slide, data from eMarketer is showing that 84% of marketers are using Instagram. In 2022, 72% of marketers are using Instagram for influencer marketing today. And by 2025, 84% of us are going to be using Instagram for influencer marketing. So this is a widely adopted practice by marketers across, frankly, all disciplines, all product categories, and all social platforms. And you can see Facebook is in second place this year with 55%, YouTube a very close third place at 49%, TikTok right behind them at 44%, and then you've got Twitter and Snapchat below them. So this is data that's about 8 months old. I want to just bring that to bear, because I've got another chart here on the right that talks about Instagram's being the 800-pound gorilla, but TikTok making a play for Instagram's lunch. And TikTok is making a play, frankly, for everyone's lunch, but in this case, for Instagram's when it comes to influencer marketing. So we're spending now $2.23 billion on influencer marketing ads on Instagram today. This data is from 2 months ago, July of 2022. And you can see Facebook's in second, or third place behind TikTok. YouTube is in second. So all these platforms are getting a major infusion of cash in terms of ad investments, and to the tune of $4.6 billion this year alone. And as a category, as influencer marketing stands, it's growing at 17%. And your typical digital channel is growing about 13 to 15% right now. So influencer marketing is growing at a faster clip than the rest of your digital channels overall. So it's a very vibrant space. Now, new data, I point this out being the new chart, because new data shows that while TikTok is currently in second place on the bar chart on the right, by 2024, it is expected to overtake Instagram as the single largest area of investment for influencer marketing. And this is data from the trade pubs just a couple of weeks ago, so very recent. And of course, we know TikTok is making a play for just about everybody in influencer marketing notwithstanding. So this leads us now into this notion of the virtuous cycle of the influencer. So think about now back to our consumer journey being circular. We all go out, we all shop, we all go back and buy another thing because we like the experience. And this is really where influencers are almost laying right on top of that process themselves, and consumers themselves are flowing into an influencer mindset. So this is a Macy's ad on Instagram from a few weeks ago. And in fact, Macy's has an influencer marketing program. It's called the Style Crew. And if you're an employee of Macy's, or you are have a large following on social, Macy's will engage you and you can become a part of the Style Crew. So you can become an influencer if you're spending lots of money, or if you have a large following on social. And here's what you're doing that for. You're doing that so consumers can discover new products. We've already established that, right? So the first step in the influencer's reason for existence is to help you discover what you need. So you come across this post from this woman who's wearing a very smart outfit with the purse and the boots and all the accessories. You think, gosh, I want to have that because I'm going out this weekend and I want to look my best. So what do? You go to Macy's and you shop, and you buy the sweater, you buy the skirt, you buy the boots, maybe there's a watch, maybe there's a necklace, and now you're fully outfitted for your weekend. So as a consumer now, you've left a digital footprint, if you will, at Macy's. And then what do? You go home and you're so excited about your product, you actually recommend what you bought. Maybe you haven't even tried it on yet, but you're so thrilled with this look, and you're so thrilled with frankly, the joy that comes from in-store shopping. You yourself become a recommender, or in this case, an influencer, right? So interesting fact, Macy's has actually expanded its Style Crew to everybody. So they're seeing this happen on repeat from consumers from all walks of life. So you don't need to be an employee. You don't need to have 1 million followers. If you want to be in Macy's Style Crew, you just need to recommend a Macy's product or a Macy's service, and boom, before you know it, you're an influencer with a massive following yourself. So all that to say, consumers are not just buying, there's the virtuous cycle of buying and recommending. And we're especially seeing this in younger demographics, right? You might not get baby boomers to do much recommending, you might not get Gen Xers to do much recommending, but you're certainly getting millennials, and you're definitely getting Gen Z to buy and recommend. And this is the new crop of influencers who yesterday were consumers, tomorrow they themselves are advertisers and marketers. So this is that consumer journey on repeat with the overlay of influencers. So this has massive implications on how we market, right? As marketers ourselves, we need to be thinking about what this new type of creative and this new type of go-to-market actually means. So influencer marketing is going to continue to grow, there's no doubt about it, as long as both consumers and influencers put a premium on trust and authenticity, because we know why influencers exist, to tell us it's a good idea to buy this product, right? We believe them, we like them, we have an affinity for them, so they're kind of our friend by proxy. And as long as they're trustworthy and authentic, influencer marketing is going to continue to grow. With that though, as marketers, we need to give up some creative control, right? The influencers themselves have a platform. They have a message, they have a style, they have a color palette, they have a mode, they have a length of video, whatever the case might be. We can no longer dictate as closely as we did what the creative looks like. And frankly, this has been a trend on the rise for years. And influencer marketing is only accelerating the trend of giving up creative control outside of the traditional brand house. The other thing about this type of channel is that it puts a heavier burden in terms of creative production on the marketer, him or herself. So not only are we giving up control, creative control, we actually have to do more of the work. Why? Well, the platforms have different requirements for the creative. The users on those platforms have different preferences. They want to see shorter videos or longer videos. So now we have sort of this balkanization of creative production that we didn't have before, because we want to make sure our influencers are exposed on as many platforms as possible. So that brings us to point number 4, which is scaling your influencer creative as quickly and efficiently as possible is going to put you in the pole position. That's going to put you in the lead, because if you can turn and burn with your creative once and twice and 3 times, you're going to be faster and you're going to be better than the brand house that does not have the ability to scale influencer content as quickly as you do. So all of this put together really puts now 2 things into stark relief, into sharp focus. And that's the way we think about influencers and the way we measure influencers. And that's point 5 and 6 on the slide. So today, a lot of us think about influencers as really an affiliate channel, or a set of affiliate marketers who help drive traffic to a website or help drive traffic to a store, and we're good and they're good and everyone's happy. But really, what influencer marketing now, especially at nearly $5 billion a year in terms of ad spend, is a full-blown ad channel, right? This is on par with out-of-home advertising in the U.S. is an $8 billion channel. So influencer marketing is coming up to that, that same order of magnitude. If you think about influencer marketing as a channel, and you should. So what does that mean? It means you need to measure full funnel, everything from how many people became aware of my brand as a result of this campaign, to how many people actually came to the store, bought the thing, and then went home and had a delightful experience with it. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next several slides. We'll give you a couple campaign examples. But before we get to actually the TikTok and the Instagram example, I want to get through some nuts and bolts, right? Everyone's curious, how much does this cost and how much should I really spend? So we'll share the recording of this webinar. Of course, you don't need to necessarily screenshot this, but feel free. This is size of influencer by number of followers and how much a typical post is gonna cost you. So on the left side of your screen, you can see there's nano influencers, and they have less than 10,000 followers. They're going to charge you between $10 and probably $100 per post. Up from that, you've got influencers with fewer than 50,000 followers, and they're going to charge you a little bit more, but still doesn't break the bank at $100 to $500, and that's a meaningful following, right? 50,000 followers is pretty meaningful. You're getting into some serious territory there. But beyond that, you've got your mid-tier group, and they're going to charge you between $500 and $5,000 a post. So now this is real money. Like, this is a real decision you need to make if you're going to spend $5,000. But rest assured, these people should have upwards of 500,000 followers. So you're going to have a nice reach there. Then you're getting into the real starstruck category with macro influencers. They have nearly 1 million followers. They're going to charge you upwards of 10,000 per post. And you've got your mega influencers and your celebrities. And these are people with well over 1 million followers. And they're going to charge you well over $10,000 per post, right? And if you want to go engage with Lady Gaga, or you want to go engage with Taylor Swift, or whoever's on your list, that's just pure negotiation. You're dealing with talent agencies and massive contracts, and frankly, you're giving up all kinds of creative control, but you're probably one of the biggest brands in the world. So congratulations. Now, all that to say, there are variables that will impact these costs on the left side of your screen. So on the right side of your screen, these are things that are going to make the number go up or go down, depending on how you think about them. The first one is the platform that you're posting to. If you're posting to a platform with a huge center of gravity, like Instagram, for example, there's probably going to be a premium placed on your content by the influencer, and they're going to charge you accordingly. But if you're posting on Snapchat, or you're posting on Twitter, where there's less of an influencer marketing vibe, then you're not maybe going to pay that premium. The other thing that's going to make your costs go up or down is not just the influencer's reach, their number of followers, but actually the number of engagements they get as a result of their posts. So this is good data to ask for. If you have an influencer on your list, or a set of influencers on your list, don't just look at their followers, look at the number of people who reacted to a typical campaign, because that's going to be an indicator of their overall impact. The other thing that's going to affect your price is how well your brand aligns with the influencer you're choosing. If you're marketing candy corn, and I'll use the example again, and you've got an influencer who is all about candy corn 365, 24/7, you're going to pay a premium for that. But if you've got an influencer who is more holiday focused or more candy focused, there might not be quite as as much of a pressure to pay that influencer a premium, right? So think about expanding your aperture in terms of brand alignment and specialization. The other thing that's going to affect your cost is the type of content. Is it a static post? Is it a video? Is it short form? Is it long form? Of course, that's going to impact what you're paying. And then seasonality. If you're trying to market something around Halloween and candy corn, here we go again, then you're obviously going to pay a premium for that. But if you want to do a back to school campaign in April, you might get a break on that because back to school doesn't start until July or August for that. And then lastly, the last variable that's going to impact your overall cost is the usage rights that you agree to in the contract. And we'll get to contract stuff later. But do you have exclusive rights to this content, or could the influencer use it with other brands or other vendors as well? Generally, you're going to want to have exclusive usage, so your ad is not being seen by others who are followers of other brands. But something certainly to think about as you negotiate price and the way to think about your overall cost. So this is not the total sum of what you're going to spend for an influencer marketing campaign, because you still have to buy the media, you still have to buy the audience, right? So there's other considerations, but this gives you a feel, at least, for what the influencer content alone could or might cost you based on this set of variables. So all that behind us, let's pivot now and talk about a couple of our favorite social media channels and a couple of our favorite brands, right? This first story features Instagram and the retailer Nordstrom. And if you've not heard of Nordstrom, it is a large national apparel retailer, usually found in malls, but often sometimes standalone stores, really a cornerstone of many of the malls across the US. So to tell this campaign story, which is a hypothetical, this is not a campaign we ran for Nordstrom, but it's real data that we're using just to bring the story to life. We used a foot traffic analytics tool that we have here at Reveal Mobile called Visit Local to look back at Nordstrom's foot traffic to see what the opportunities are. So we pulled this data, and for all of Nordstrom stores, we see that their foot traffic has dropped 7% in the most recent 4 weeks compared to the 4 weeks prior. We can also see that almost 80% of their consumers are traveling more than 5 miles to shop at Nordstrom. So this is not an inconsequential trip. They're making a purposeful journey to the mall or to the Nordstrom store to do something, so they're on a mission. And we can also see here from this foot traffic analytics that their percentage of repeat visitors is very low. So only 23% of their consumers have come back more than once. And of course, if Nordstrom wants to have that lower cost consumer visiting their store, it's going to be the one who's already shopped there, because it takes less energy and less ad dollars to bring consumers back to your store. So Nordstrom has a problem, and that is foot traffic is declining and they need more repeat business. And if you want to do a quick comparison, you can see here that Ann Taylor's foot traffic on the far right has also dropped. So has Express, but not nearly as much as the green line, which is the Nordstrom foot traffic drop. So Nordstrom has to do some innovation. And we're going to solve this problem through location data and through what we call geofencing, right? So we're going to target our audience based on a couple of parameters that are really unique here. And we're going to market just to those consumers because they're the ones who we know are most likely to convert. And this is the secret of geofencing. So we're going to do two things here. We're going to geofence all of Nordstrom stores and draw basically a virtual barrier around those stores. And then we're going to collect audiences who visited those stores in the form of mobile device IDs. And then we're also going to geofence Nordstrom's closest competitors, Neiman Marcus, Ann Taylor, Anthropologie. And we're going to collect all those mobile device IDs as well. And then we're going to run an ad. So let's talk through the numbers here briefly. When we geofence Nordstrom in our own location data platform, as I mentioned, we looked back about 30 days and we saw that 1.48 million devices visited Nordstrom's everywhere in the country, right? So it's a fairly decent sized audience. And you can see the exact number there, down to 662. And then we also geofenced all of the Neiman Marcuses and the Ann Taylors and the Anthropologies, and we got an additional 2.53 million unique mobile devices. So in total, we have about 4 million audience members that we can market to. And why do we like these? Because they're the ones who are going to shop at Nordstrom, they're going to come back, or they're going to come to Nordstrom for the first time because they already go to Neiman Marcus, they already go to Ann Taylor, they already go to Anthropologie. And these are brands who have very much an affinity for the Nordstrom brand because it's the similar inventory, similar price point, similar lifestyle, similar consumer, right? It's almost a look-alike. So these match rates on the slide here, the 74% at the top and the 71% at the top, are the match rates we got on Instagram. So we uploaded these audiences to Instagram, well, actually Facebook Ads Manager, which is of course the same as Instagram. And Instagram came back and said, okay, we've now matched 74% of your Nordstrom audience with Instagram account holders, and we've matched 71% of your Ann Taylor, your Neiman Marcus, and your Anthropologie audiences, and now you can market to those people. So the great thing about this custom audience is you're only serving ads to those 4 million consumers and nobody else. So you're not marketing to people who might go to Nordstrom. You're not marketing to people who maybe have been to Ann Taylor in the past. You're marketing to people who you know precisely have been to Nordstrom or who are most likely to go to Nordstrom based on their past shopping behavior. And this is a simple 1, 2, 3 in terms of how to create a custom audience on Instagram. If you've never used custom audiences, or if it's something sort of new to you and a little bit mysterious, Reveal Mobile has a great white paper on how to build custom audiences on all social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, you name it. And it's a step-by-step for developing, building, and then targeting custom audiences on each of these platforms for your own purposes. So let's talk about the campaign. Here we have Nordstrom. We have this influencer, Julia. She's wearing the perfect fall sweater, right? It even looks like fall outside of her building there. And we're going to choose the ad type reach on Instagram, because we know we're already marketing to the right audience. We've uploaded our custom audience, and we're drawing lines around that audience saying only reach these people. So it's not a spray and pray. It's a very dedicated ad spend. We're going to run a good call to action, shop now, come to Nordstrom, and we're going to measure this campaign based on actual store foot traffic, again, using the location data platform I mentioned earlier. But let me say a word briefly about Julia here and what makes her a good influencer to choose. First and foremost, she has 1.3 million followers, right? And she didn't have to do a lot of following to get that audience. You can see she's only following about 640 people. And she's also posted thousands and thousands of times to this platform. So Julia is a known quantity, especially for fashion followers and fashion friends, right? So she's got this dreamy list of ruby red pieces, all from Nordstrom, and she tags Nordstrom and she posted it's a sponsored post, so full transparency. She's not trying to fool anybody. This is the right kind of engagement you want to see on an influencer ad, right? You've got great creative, you've got the product front and center, right, in the foreground, in bright colors, and you've got the right kind of influencer managing that content, right? So this is obviously a static post, not a reel, not a story, but you've got already 16,000, almost 17,000 likes just from a single post because of her reach. So Julia was a great choice from Nordstrom in this case. And so what happens now as a result of this ad? Let's look at the foot traffic analytics and determine the attribution from this ad spend. First thing that we see on this slide is that foot traffic has actually increased 33% in the most recent 4 weeks compared to the prior 4 weeks. So we were down 7%, now we're up 33, which is pretty enormous. This audience conversions donut in the middle of the bottom of the slide here talks about the number of unique foot traffic visits to Nordstrom stores system-wide during the campaign. So what's interesting here is we marketed, as we know, to about 4 million people using our custom audience on Instagram, and we've already gotten nearly 89,000 of those to visit a Nordstrom store during the flight of our campaign. And below that number is simply a multiplication problem from 88,000 times average ticket at Nordstrom. So we've sold now, based on average ticket at Nordstrom, $1.94 million in merchandise from our ad campaign, which is pretty remarkable, right? So find me an Instagram campaign that's costing you anywhere near 1.9 million, and I'll show you a negative return on ad spend. But here we have a massive positive return on ad spend, because these are the folks we know who we're targeting. We're targeting Nordstrom shoppers, we're targeting Ann Taylor shoppers, Neiman Marcus shoppers, Anthropologie shoppers. These are the people who want to know what Nordstrom has to offer, and they're converting in huge numbers, right? So now we can take these numbers to our CFO, to our COO, to all of our business stakeholders and say, hey, remember that Instagram campaign we ran with Julia? Well, it's driven 1.9 in top line. How about that? So really interesting data to bring to the stakeholders in your business. That is the Instagram story. I have one more story for you that features TikTok, and we're going to talk in this case about a restaurant, because who doesn't use TikTok to find great recipes, great restaurants, and delicious looking food, right? In this case, it's Tropical Smoothie Cafe. If you're not aware of Tropical Smoothie Cafe, it's again a nationwide franchise that specializes in exactly what they sound like, tropical smoothies. So you can go there and on a hot summer day or even a warm fall day and get yourself a refreshing drink. So here's the TikTok story relative to Tropical Smoothie. Their foot traffic is also down, not quite as much as Nordstrom's, but 2%, not a good trend. And we can also see that for all the 576 stores that Tropical Smoothie Cafe has in their franchise, in their system, half of customers are going more than 5 miles out of their way to get to this product, right? So we know there's a huge following for Tropical Smoothie Cafe. If half of your audience is not just going down the block to get their drink, they're actually going more than 5 miles, which is powerful. But the problem is they have a low proportion of new customers. So they're actually relying, you can see pretty heavily, on customers who visited more than once, which is great. We want to have repeat visits, but we also need to be building our customer base because there's also competitors out there who are also selling delicious smoothies, and we don't want them to take our customers who need to become aware of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. So in this case, we're going to do something very similar to what we did in the Nordstrom example, and we're going to geofence our own stores, our Tropical Smoothie stores, and we're going to geofence the competitors that we care most about and who we want to steal market share from. Jamba Juice, Planet Smoothie, Orange Julius. These are all stores where people are buying the wrong smoothie because they need to be coming to Tropical Smoothie Cafe, right? So while I don't pull numbers for you in this example, it gives you a good feel for how to think about your own campaigns relative to the product you're selling, the experience you're merchandising, and how to target, right? And how to build audiences who are super high intent based on their actual foot traffic to actual stores in the recent past. So think about that relative to your own category. But let's talk through TikTok and custom audiences. So again, a very simple 1, 2, 3. TikTok's ad manager is actually orders of magnitude easier to use than Facebook's is. Don't tell Facebook. But TikTok has figured this out. Step 1 is select audience. Step 2 is choose customer file, which is this list of mobile ad IDs that you've extracted from Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Orange Julius, I've forgotten Jamba Juice, and Planet Smoothie. And you're now going to actually upload those to TikTok, and TikTok wants the mobile ad IDs, otherwise known as an IDFA from Apple or a GAID from Google. And you just simply upload your CSV, and now you've got your cordoned off audience of everyone who's either likely to go to Tropical Smoothie Cafe or who's already been there in the past. And you're going to market. What are you going to market? Well, you're going to make your product the focus, and you're going to bring Katie Ryan into the picture, who has 350,000 followers on TikTok, and you're going to have her delight in your new product. Oh, and by the way, Tropical Smoothie doesn't just have refreshing drinks, but this is an ad that Tropical Smoothie is using very smartly because they're featuring food as well. So did you know the Tropical Smoothie has quesadillas? Well, now you do, thanks to Katie, right? So she's not just going to have this product in her car, but she's going to delight in it, right? So here she is. She's just been in the store. You can imagine she's just come back to her car from having been inside the store. The food is hot. The food is delicious. The drink is refreshing, and she's trying it for the first time. And what does she do? Shout out to Tropical Smoothie. It's her new favorite quesadilla, and 350,000 people now know about it, right? Because you've used this influencer in your own campaign to target this creative to the Tropical Smoothie audience, the Orange Julius audience, and the Planet Smoothie audience, and there you go. So now you've got a very nice, clean campaign featuring a smart influencer doing the right things with your product and taking that to the bank. Let's see how that looks. Foot traffic attribution, here we are again. So it was down 2% before the campaign started. The foot traffic is now actually up 15% system-wide, 4 weeks over the 4 weeks prior. And you can see on the back of this campaign, 57,000 people visited a Tropical Smoothie Cafe at the average ticket. They've now sold $858,000 in smoothies and quesadillas and soda and cookies and all the things the Tropical Smoothie sells, right? And by the way, because we're selling, because we're marketing quesadillas in this campaign, our average ticket is not $11, as you can see in the report. Our average ticket is $15 because when a consumer comes in and buys food on top of their smoothie, they're of course spending more money. So this is a $15 ticket, not an $11 ticket, hence the $85,885 in top line sales that we've driven. So all of this to say, we are tying together in no uncertain terms influencer marketing creative with actual foot traffic data to to your restaurant brands or to your clothing brands, whatever type of franchise you're operating, and proving that value of the ad spend on the back of the walled gardens, on the back of the Instagrams, on the back of the TikToks, the Facebooks, all of them, because you're using, the key here is custom audiences. And once you use that custom audience as your common thread from exposure to visit, you've got the attribution you need. That's the trick. Okay, last slide before we get to questions. Hope to have a lot of them, so now's your time to put them into the box if you're thinking about questions. Let's go through some best practices for finding and hiring influencers. First step is have some goals, right? We all think influencer marketing is fun and sort of a thing to do on the side. Well, frankly, it is a channel, so your channel needs to have campaigns that are treated like campaigns, right? So it's important to know what's possible with influencer marketing, right? It's not the panacea, it's not the cure-all for all of your foot traffic problems or all of your sales problems, but be sure you're aware of what your budget can actually get you. And having talked through pricing earlier, you can get a feel for just how large of a spend you need to make to have the impact you want to have. Now, the next step is the fun one, right? Come up with a short list of influencers you want to work with. It is super easy to become starstruck by your favorite influencers on TikTok or Instagram. We all have them, right? We all see people who are talking about products or talking up experiences they've had, and they're funny and they're entertaining, and darn it, we want to work with them. But they might not have any affinity for your brand or your consumer. So before you just decide on the most popular influencer or the most humorous influencer, make sure that they actually have some relevance to your brand. And like I mentioned earlier, ask for data from past campaigns. Ask what kind of engagement they had on previous posts, and not just the number of followers they've got, but how many people actually responded or commented or liked their posts. And that'll give you a feel for what kind of impact is possible on the foot traffic front. And you'll obviously need to infer that from their post analytics, but you'll be able to get a feel for it. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, manage the relationship. Manage the influencer in a way you would manage any kind of vendor, but try not to manage the creative, because you're hiring the influencer for their mojo, right? For their moxie. So capitalize on that and let them glow, let them shine in their creative, and instead manage the relationship, the terms of the agreement. And in the contract, make sure you spell out what happens if things don't go well. And that means they're late with their creative, or the creative didn't perform as well as expected or promised, or maybe there was a glitch with the actual platform itself. Maybe spell that out in the contract as well. So there's no guesswork in terms of what happens if a problem is encountered. So all that to say, influencer marketing has clearly hit its stride. It needs business logic. It needs business rules. Here's a great way to think about managing that experience for both your own brand and for the influencer, him or herself. And with that, Mike, I'll turn it back to you and entertain any questions we have in the audience.
Okay, Dan, thanks. That was really great. We have time for a few questions now. We'll get them in a minute, but feel free to keep putting your questions into the question box. We have a lot of questions so far, but feel free to keep putting them in if you have them. A quick reminder, there'll be a recording of today's webinar as well as a slide deck sent to each of you by email. So let's see what the audience is asking here. Dan, what methods should you use to evaluate the level of bots or to duplicate accounts on an influencer's account?
That's a great question, and something that is sort of the concern of many a marketer. I wish I had an easy solution for the bot problem. What I would do is I would actually defer to the influencer and ask them, how have you managed fake data in the past? How can you guarantee me that your followers and your audience is really the kind of audience we need in terms of scale? And that's why I recommend asking for analytics around individual posts, because followers are one thing. People can buy followers, right? You can get followers in all kinds of ways, but actual engagement is really more meaningful and harder to dupe. So ask the influencer for some hard numbers.
Okay, here's a question from Dan Mandel, who wants to know, what is the source of the foot traffic data to which Reveal Mobile has access?
Yes, this is a proprietary platform that we have here at Reveal Mobile called Visit Local, and it gives us really three things. It gives us foot traffic analytics for stores across the US. It gives us audiences based on places people shop and places people visit. It also gives us foot traffic attribution based on ad buys, whether it's programmatic display or social or out of home, whatever channel you're running in. It allows us to see what happens pre-campaign, mid-campaign, and then of course post-campaign. And agencies and brands are using this technology every day to run their paid media.
Okay. Ray Powell wants to know, in one of the examples you gave, was there paid media behind the influencer? And if so, how much?
Yes. So in both examples, for Tropical Smoothie Cafe and for Nordstrom, these are posts that were actually promoted by the influencer themselves. I don't actually have campaign budget for you on these particular campaigns because we did not run them ourselves. But that's why I gave you the guidelines on nano influencer, micro influencer, mid-tier influencer, so you can get a feel for what an actual piece of content costs. But they are sponsored posts used on behalf of the brand to target those audiences that are custom pulled from location signals.
Okay. So Scott Moody apologizes if he missed this when you went through it, but is wondering if you're able to isolate foot traffic in a way that draws a direct line to the influencer campaign, or did these examples look at foot traffic in general during the time of the campaign?
That's a great question, Scott. Very astute, and a question we get a lot. And don't worry, you didn't miss it because I didn't say it. Well, all right, I said it obliquely, and that is by virtue of using custom audiences on these platforms. So by uploading your own list of mobile ad IDs, you are isolating the foot traffic derived from that audience. So by virtue of setting an audience, setting a budget, setting a campaign, and setting a time, you know that everybody who visited your store from that particular audience is germane just to that campaign because you've cordoned off any other variables, any other ad buys. And that common thread is the custom audience from the Visit Local platform tied to the custom audience you're uploading to, in this case, Instagram or TikTok. So there's a very clear one-to-one relationship.
Okay. Jose Gonzalez wants to know how and where do you create a list of influencers?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I would recommend hitting the platforms, the ones you think you might want to advertise on, whether it's Pinterest or Snapchat or TikTok or any of them, and just start following hashtags and following brands that are in the same vein as yours, and discover who those influencers might be. Invariably, the algorithm is going to work for you, and you're going to be exposed to ads that are very much like the ones you might want to actually execute yourself. So the best way is just to pretend you're the consumer yourself as a consumer of your own brand, and let the influencer marketing hit you, because frankly, every fourth post in your Facebook feed, every fifth post in your Instagram feed is an ad. It's a sponsored post, right? So it's only going to take you a couple of seconds to come across either a paid placement or an influencer marketing ad.
Okay, so Jason Bullock wants to know if you recommend influencer platforms like Apex Drop, Heartbeat, or any others.
I don't have a recommendation myself. I don't have any credibility in that regard. I can't necessarily say one is better than the other because that's not really my role here. I would expect, of course, you to evaluate all of them and decide which one's best for you. We do not make any sort of official recommendations or official decisions on behalf of anybody.
Okay. So what are some of the ways that TikTok is evolving to surpass Instagram?
I did reference that earlier in the webinar. TikTok has made a number of changes to their ad platform and to their user platform on both sides. First thing is, remember when TikToks used to be 40 seconds or 80 seconds, whatever, 90 seconds, whatever they were, and then one day TikTok said, okay, now they're 3 minutes. Well, now they're 10 minutes. And TikTok is really becoming a platform for long form story video, much more so than just, quick humorous vignettes or skits. So TikTok is not just trying to take Facebook's lunch money. They're not just trying to take YouTube's lunch money for, tutorial videos on TikTok taught me, but they're trying to take over Netflix. They're going to start becoming a streaming platform themselves in the same way we sit down and watch Hulu, right? So this is something TikTok is really making inroads towards. The other thing they're doing is they're making the advertiser side of the platform a lot more powerful to get granular audiences. So this is clearly TikTok's moment for the next couple of years.
Okay, so here are a couple influencer questions that kind of play off each other and dig a little deeper into some of the things you were answering before.
Cool.
Have you heard stories of influencers who are hard to work with?
Yes, I have. Anecdotally, we're human, right? And humans are both sort of fun and sort of a drag, right? Like any human. So it really depends on, obviously, how you engage with the influencer, the instrument you have, the contract you have to guide the influencer relationship. And that's why you really want to set business terms, right? So if you've got an influencer who is hard to manage, hard to corral, always late, you know what? There's others out there, right? So rather than putting yourself through the paces and ending up with a headache at the end of the day, man, the influencers who are hard to work with, they're going to be the ones who should be struggling, not you, right? So make the easy decision, and if the instrument you had in place to govern the relationship doesn't hold up, I would think you'd want to move on. As any smart marketer would want to spend smart money, you're going to want to spend money on a reliable resource, not a resource that's unreliable.
So taking reliability to the next step, which is credibility, what's a good way to discover influencers with credibility in a specific market?
That's a great question. So it goes back to my previous answer about sort of playing the role of the consumer yourself for your own brand and spending some time on these platforms and discovering the influencer yourself, and then digging into their profiles, right? And that's why I had earlier in my slides the profile picture, the number of followers, the number of posts they've made, how long they've been a member of the platform. So like any judgment you're going to make in your day-to-day work, you're going to make judgments based on those parameters as well, right? How much of a following does this influencer have? How many posts have they done? Go to their profile page, look at the library of posts they've made in the past, see if they adhere to some level of quality, some level of entertainment that you might want to have in your own creative, and then make a judgment call, because this is where the science and the art of marketing converge in this influencer marketing world. So have some fun with it.
Okay, so Dan, reflecting on some of the questions that you've gotten, which have honed in on a few particular threads, are there any things before we close up that you thought of that you want to make sure you reinforce or add to the discussion?
I appreciate that. I would add that while Instagram and TikTok are the two Goliaths in the space, this is where a lot of the money is going, it may not be the right platform for you, right? Pinterest, Snapchat, Twitter, these are all platforms that engage in influencer marketing. They're also platforms that enable custom audiences. So what I described for you in today's webinar is not restricted or limited only to Instagram and TikTok. You can really do this anywhere. So think about your own audience, think about the platform you work with most regularly, where you have maybe your own best following, and follow that lead of where your centers of gravity already are. And don't just assume that Instagram with the 5 million follower influencer is the way to go, because you might be spending unnecessary dollars on something that's not going to have the impact you want. And in the case of foot traffic, make sure you are tying together that custom audience from the location data platform with the custom audience you're running the creative against on the platform, and your attribution is going to be rock solid.
Okay, so I think with that, we'll wrap for today. One thing I wanted to mention, I believe we got to all the questions that were asked, but if we somehow missed one, don't worry. Dan and the folks at Reveal Mobile will receive all your questions and can respond to each of you directly after the webinar. Dan, thanks again for a great presentation, and to the audience for some great questions. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes at Reveal who helped to put all of this together. We hope you found the information presented helpful and informative. Stay tuned to MediaPost's website and digital publications in your inbox for more informative webinars to come from other valuable MediaPosts and the MediaPost partners in the weeks and months to come. Thanks so much to everybody for joining today. We'll see you next time, and stay safe out there. Thanks a lot and take care.
Thanks, Mike.